Welcome back to another Yaxology tutorial. In today's tutorial, I'm going to teach you guys how to take a regular picture just like this and turn it into an epic cinematograph that will blow your friends' minds away. What is a cinematograph? A cinematograph is a picture with some sort of movement inside the picture, which now turns this single frame picture into a moving video clip. So I've done this effect many times. One of them you guys already seen where I jump in the air. Another one is I'm standing there with a picture and there's a moving portal in my hand and it's slowly moving around, and you can also see in the background the sky. There's a time lapse of the stars moving over. So I've transferred this picture, which is one frame, into a moving video. Another example is this cool picture that I took where I have my hand out and my picture turns into a video clip of all the particles exploding and transferring into the world. Remember that the possibilities are limitless. You can use whatever imagination you have and create literally anything you want. I've seen some of the coolest cinemagraphs on Instagram that blew my mind away, and I've also seen some simple cinemagraphs made by companies in order to attract your attention. Step one will be you want to create a vision or a creative idea for your edits. I personally plan my edits out months in advance, and when I have the idea, I take my phone out and I write it down in my notes because I don't want to let the idea slip away. If you guys want to copy my idea, feel free to do so. I'm going to break it down for you guys, so you guys feel free to take whatever you want from it. And if you don't want to copy my idea, feel free to make your own and take the tips and helpful advice and add it to your own edit. Keep in mind that it's important to pre-plan because when you go to set and you want to shoot, there's specific ways you have to shoot your shots in order to make it work. For example, if you want to jump in the air, you want to keep the angle a little bit low to show the bottom of your feet. If you want a different kind of shot, you're gonna have to get a different angle. So it's important to have everything written down because planning before your video is very important in creative editing. For this specific edit, I actually took a picture off of unsplash.com, which is a platform where a lot of photographers can upload their raw pictures and their edited pictures, and it's completely free to use. So feel free to go there and find the picture you want to use as the backdrop. In this specific scenario, I used this forest kind of vibe picture and it looked perfect for a ledge for me to jump off of. So when I went to the set and I shot, I kept that in my mind so that way I can plan accordingly. Step two will be to actually go to set and shoot your pictures. So I got my friend Apex to come help me. So shout out to Apex for always being there and helping me out with these shoots. You can either get a tripod if you don't have a friend, or you can set your camera down, have a timer. But the idea here is to get many pictures of different angles and different styles because you never know which picture you're gonna need. After you take pictures, remove yourself from the background and always take a picture of the background because it's always better to have the background picture and delete it versus having to go back and reshoot it with the same settings, with the same clothes, with the same weather. You never know what happens. So a good tip to always keep in mind for all your shoots from now on is always take extra pictures because it's much easier to delete pictures than go back and reshoot. Step three is to now transfer the clips to your computer and begin the editing process. The apps we'll be using today will be Photoshop for the basic adjustments and picture editing, and After Effects for the puppet tool and actually animating the video. Once you've imported your RAW or your JPEG picture into Photoshop, if it's a RAW, you will get a camera raw filter box, and you basically want to adjust the exposure, contrast, all of that good stuff so you can get to this page right here. And the goal with this step is to find your stock picture off Unsplash or whichever you choose. If you choose your specific area and it's very cool, you can do that as well. But for this specific one, I'm gonna pick a picture of Unsplash, and I'm going to teach you guys how to do the basic steps, which is you want to remove this person out of the shot. So you want to click the lasso tool over here, remove it from the background layer so you can actually edit it, and you want to just lasso tool around it really quickly. And this effect is really cool with Photoshop. And what you do is you click Shift plus Backspace, and it'll bring up this fill thing. You want to click Content Aware, which basically it fills in the area, the selection area. So once you're done that, you want to click Control D to deselect the layer, and now you have a picture with no one in it. So now what you want to do is you want to go to your other picture and you want to select yourself out of the background. So now you can put them together into one composite. So you want to zoom in here, click click W for the selection tool, and you want to you want to basically use this Alt button and your right click on your mouse to move it left and right. You can hold it and move it left and right to adjust the size, and you want to adjust the size so it fits into these areas, and select yourself. If you guys get around the edges here, what you do is you hold Alt and you click around the edges and it'll subtract. So you want to just go around, take your time, make sure everything is nice. So you can even zoom in here by clicking Z. You can hold Alt, make it smaller, and you go through here. The more time you spend, obviously, the better it'll be, but because of tutorial sake, I'm going to speed this up so you guys can see the next step. Once you've officially finished this and it's looking nice and stuff, you can actually just click this button right here, which is the layer mask button, and it'll select yourself out. As you can see here, it's not that perfect because I didn't spend my time, but yours should be a lot better. If you notice that you don't really like the details and stuff and you want to fix this stuff, you can actually go to select and mask here on the right side, and you can even use these tools right here, like the brush tool, and you can like you can draw out specific parts. You can use the different layer styles here, the view modes, so you can see how it looks on white, on black. You can get the black out. You can go to onion skin. So the idea here is to take your time. If you don't really know how to do this step, you can watch many tutorials online and figure out how to do this step. So once you've selected yourself out of the background completely, I'm gonna go skip right ahead so you can see how it looks. So this is my layer that I've skipped steps and I've cut myself out. So here's the everything. And what you want to do is you want to import your stock picture to this layer. So in your specific layer, just grab your stock picture and import it just like that. I just messed up here for a second. I'm gonna move the layer a little bit lower here so you can kind of see how it looks. So the idea here is don't worry about the actual sizing and stuff. The idea here is you want to match the colors and make it look like you actually belong in the picture. So by doing these specific adjustment layers here, you will composite it so it looks like you match. So what I did was I added a hue and saturation layer by clicking here and then click on hue and saturation, and right away, if it doesn't have this little arrow, you want to click this button right here, or you can also click Alt and click on this the lower part of the thing, and what it will do is it will show this arrow which only affects this specific layer, so the layers underneath it won't be affected. So I'm going to just delete this layer because it's not really needed. So I'll turn on my hue and saturation layer. So the hue and saturation made it a little less saturated, as you can see here, and then I added a color balance as well. By going to color balance. For color balance, what you do is you just basically, depending on your picture, it'll change. So you want to mess around with the colors to make it look like you belong there. And each corresponding effect that I add makes it more and more like blended into my picture. So now the brightness and contrast, we added that. So it makes the shadows pop a little bit. So I'll go here, so I'll show you guys. My brightness was -48, contrast was 15. I don't want to go too in depth here because your picture is going to be a lot different than mine, so there's no point of me explaining it super in depth, and also there's a lot of tutorials online already for that. So next I added the curves, and then I messed around with the curve settings. So I just grabbed this stuff and moved it around until I kind of eyeballed it and it looked nice. And then for the final one, I added another one just to make it super dark. So as you can tell, if you zoom out here, it looks pretty cool, and the best part is that the background is separated from the picture, which is what we're gonna need in the next part. So now that we've done that, we can delete the background. We don't really need that. What we really need for this specific layer is just yourself separated from everything else. You're gonna go to File, Save As, and you're gonna save this as a PSD. So I named it as a floating mask PSD. So you just make it a Photoshop file. And what a Photoshop file does is it allows you to edit the individual layers. So this specific layer, you can edit it and it'll be separated from everything else, which is what we're gonna need in the next part inside of After Effects. I'm gonna show you guys a quick breakdown because I feel that by showing you guys this, it'll help make everything make sense and come together for you guys. So inside of After Effects, I have all these different compositions, and it's very simple once you break it down. I know it looks confusing right now if you're a beginner or if this is your first time seeing it, but if you're advanced or even advanced, this will look very easy to use. So in my first composition here, which is the final render, We're gonna start from the final and work our way back, so that way you guys can understand how I actually did this effect and what layers I needed and what effects I put on in which composition. So in the final render, what I did was I added another shake effect, which basically sold the effect when I jumped in the air, it shaked the screen and it gave you like that action effect. So if you open up the final composition, open it here, it'll go to this one. So this is everything, all the effects, everything, and then I added a color correction, a final one on top just to make it pop. So there you go, I use Magic Bullet Looks for that one. And then if I open up everything, I have the Real Smart Motion Blur, which is RSMB, which adds a very realistic action feel to your clips, because as you move, it'll add blur to specific parts. And here I also added a sound effect, which makes the Cinemagraph work and sound realistic. So if I open up the RSMB layer, here we have the particles right here, which I downloaded online. I actually purchased these to make it work. So if you turn it off, there's the red particles that fly with me. Also here I added a shake, another shake effect. And then, so this is the puppet tool plus wings. So I'll open up this next, but underneath that I have the two effects. So the metal slam, I also bought that, and the Ava sound effects, I bought that, which is the riser, which is the whole sound effect that makes this Cinemagraph specifically sound really good. So I'm gonna open up the puppet tool. So the puppet tool, this is the layer that I use, the puppet tool. So as you can see, you can kind of see the little keyframes. So right about there in a little rough version, you can kind of see it. Over here I added two optical flares, so one for each eye I added right there, so the eyes, so one there, and I keyframed it to match with my eyes. And then here I added a wing layer. I separated them because I needed to, as I jumped up, I needed to separate the layers so I can actually, like, so here it's underneath my shoulder blades, and then once it goes here it's over top, so I had to like specifically cut them and mask them. If you click on each one, you can kind of see it. Let me show you guys what I mean. So there you go, you see this is the mask that I put, so you can't really see it over top of my shoulders until it gets to the second part there. And then here's the background that I brought in here, and here's the Yaxo layer, which is the puppet tool. So I'm gonna break this down for you guys right now. So if I click U, I'll see all the keyframes. I know this looks very confusing and stuff like that, so don't worry about that. I'm gonna try my best to explain it. So here I actually have only 3 keyframes. So this is the number 1 keyframe, and if I click on the puppet tool right here, it'll show you all the different puppet spots that I put on this on my body. So after this breakdown, I'm gonna show you guys how to do it. Actually put the puppet tools on your body, but here I'm gonna just break it down for you guys. So the first keyframe I put here, I just clicked the keyframe, and I made it look like I'm standing there. And then, so in an actual jumping position, the person will squat down and it'll crunch their body together, and then once they hit that low point, they'll explode up really fast. So that's what I try to mimic with the puppet tool to make it look very realistic. And because it's only about 10 to 15 frames, it looks very realistic, because 10 to 15 frames is less than a second. So in less than a second, I go from down to up in the sky. And that's what really sells this effect, because it's not very slow and people can't really tell what's realistic and not. If you add motion blur, if you add the particles flying, if you add this, if you add the sound effect, it'll make the whole thing come together as if it looks real. So don't worry too much about the details, because people won't really notice it unless they pause it and go frame by frame. So what I did here was I put a keyframe for the position. I went over a couple frames, maybe like 7-8 frames, and then I basically took these and I put them down. I made it look very realistic, as if I'm squatting down, and then I went forward a few more frames, and then I brought it up in the air. So now I expanded my arms out to the side. I put my chest up a bit, I put my feet up a bit. And what I did here was I positioned the actual layer itself to go up in the sky. So from here I put a keyframe to where it was, and then if I went up here a few frames forward, I brought it up in the air. So that way the person in this case will be you, jumps up from a specific spot and goes into the sky. So if you go forward a bit here, it basically, all it does is the scale of the scene is scaled out. So the scale is at 83% here, and it keeps going forward all the way to here, which is 60% scale. So it starts off zoomed in, and it goes, the wings come out, boom, and then as the wings fly out, the scene scales back. So now for the wings. I'm gonna click U here so you can see the mask. So what I did was, if you actually open this, I found the wing from online and I basically masked it and I keyframed it. So here, position. So what I did was I started it from this is my right wing, and this angle is my right wing. So I started it here, I went forward, and then I just keyframed the position, the rotation, just to make it fly out. So this is just basic stuff. I'm not gonna go into too in depth here because you can find tutorials on how to keyframe and stuff like that, but I removed the background, I put it where I needed to put it, and then I keyframed it to make it match with me. And then I pre-comped it, which is why you can't see the background here, because I edited first in the other layer, which is this one. Where is it? In this one, and then I pre-comped it after. So that's why it looks like there's no background, because when you pre-comp something, it puts it into its own composition, which is what you see right here. Now for the actual process. As I've said many times, I'm not going to go too in depth and go step by step because this tutorial will be about 5 hours long, and I don't want to make a 5 hour long in-depth tutorial, but I will break down as much as I can and explain the effects, so then that way you guys can use what I teach you and go into After Effects and try different stuff, because this is how I learned and this is how you're going to learn as well. I can't really give you all the secrets and show you step by step because you won't learn like that. I can show you a basic outline and give you the exact steps that I use to start, and then you're gonna have to go into your specific edit and try different things, fail a few times, and then eventually you will get something that looks insane and you will be amazed at what you can do. This is how learning works, and this is how I'm gonna teach you guys. Okay, so when you open up After Effects, you want to import your specific stock picture, and then you want to drag it into this composition right here, unless you guys have a composition already. So when you drag it here, it makes a composition for you, and this is just the layer that I took the guy out earlier. Next, what we want to do is you want to import the picture that you saved as a PSD, which is Yaxo layer here. I'm going to open it. Actually, I'm going to just double click the layer. So if you import it as a PSD, you will have these specific layers and stuff like that. I had here's all the other layers and stuff like that. So these are all the curves and all this shit. If these are together like this, and then the layer of yourself is there, what you want to do is just highlight them all, right click and click pre-comp, or just drag this specific layer in the Photoshop adjustments, because that's the specific layer with all the adjustments, because you want the adjustments on the picture. You don't want just the layer of you cut out, because it won't match, right? So once you do that, you want to take this layer picture of yourself and you want to drag it into this composition. I don't know why that didn't work. Okay, I'm just gonna copy it and paste it because it's not really working. Okay, so there we go. So you want to click S as the shortcut for scale, bring it here, bring it down a bit. Now you want to size it up and make sure it fits with the picture. So here we go, like that. I'm gonna actually scale this up in the beginning and scale it out like we did in the other time. So I'm gonna scale this up originally because that's how I started with the other one. I'm gonna scale it up to maybe like 135 for this specific tutorial. In my actual edit, I did a little bit different, but I don't remember, as I did this edit a long time ago. So we're gonna just do a basic, quick little adjustment here. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the puppet tool to actually animate ourselves and make it a cinematograph. So let me actually zoom in a bit. I don't really like how it's, there we go. So hold space to move around. Okay, so if we actually go up here, this is the puppet tool. So you want to click on your layer, click the puppet tool, and now since the layer is actually it's separated from the background and there's no like background attached to it, you can add puppet tools, and Photoshop will do its best to make it a puppet wrap. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So you want to click on different points. So I want to add one on my head. It'll start it up. Actually, I don't really like that point. I'm going to Control Z. I'm going to add it right in the center. I don't know why it's not working. There we go, center of the head. I want to add it near my chest / sternum. I want to add on my shoulders. And you can try different stuff with your thing depending on what you want for your Cinemagraph. It depends on what your goal is. So I'm gonna basically add it at the joints. Try not to add too much because you'll have to move every single point once it starts animating. So I'm gonna add it on my wrist here, and I'm gonna add it in the middle of my palm, so that way I can actually do hand movements and stuff like that as I'm jumping the air, which makes it realistic. I'm gonna do one right around my hips. I'm gonna do it around my knee. and I'm gonna do it around my ankle / shoe. I'm just Control Z that last one, put it in the center. So now that you've actually put a puppet tool points at everywhere here, you can click on the mesh here and it'll show what After Effects did to make it. So if you drag any of these points and move it, it'll actually warp your puppet tool. This is pretty cool, man. You can get very creative with this. Like, you can bring your head up. It looks very weird if you do it extreme, obviously, so don't do extreme. The point here is to have minimal movement to make it realistic. That's the goal here, to make people believe that it's actually real. So if you go down here, let me see where I can find it. Okay, I'm not really too sure. Maybe it's right here. Puppet tool. I think if you actually, so if you click on the puppet tool here, and if you go ahead, I think it automatically adds a keyframe. So let's say we start from right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move this around. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so like I thought, if you move forward a bit and you change each one of these, it'll automatically add a keyframe. So right away, what I want to do is I want to start from here. I want to go down a bit, so I'm going to move over a couple frames, and I'm going to adjust everything to make it look like I'm crouching down. So I'm going to go like this, bring this down a bit here, bring this closer here. So just going to freestyle, kind of see where this goes. Bring this all here, bring this down. Bring this down, bring this down. Okay, so I took my time and just did a really rough kind of thing. So as you can tell, if you go extreme, it'll look very weird and it'll look warpy and stuff like that. So try to do minimal movements, but I wanted to just exaggerate it and show you guys what you can do with puppet tools. So here I went from this keyframe, I went forward a few frames, and then I brought myself down as if I'm gonna jump. And then so now if I go here, I'm gonna make myself go up in the air kind of thing. I can actually also keyframe the position. So I'll click this, I'll click P for position, and I'll keyframe the position here, and then I'll go like from here, I'll go forward a few frames to here, click keyframe again, so that way it's two keyframe positions, so one here and one here, these are the same, and then once it hits here, it'll go to about a couple frames over, and then now I'm gonna just drag it up in the air. So if you want to make it on the vertical plane, hold shift, bring it straight up in the air like that. So now if I click 0, it goes down and it goes up. It's not that fast, obviously, because the timing isn't right, but I'm gonna bring it closer a bit. So boom, there we go. So as you can tell, it starts off, it goes down, crouches down, and then flies up in the air. So once you do that, like, you want to go click U again, you want to click on the puppet tool again, and then you want to find where it's in the air, and obviously now you're gonna go again, you're gonna make yourself go wide out. I have a cool idea actually. So what you can do is you can actually click on these exact puppet keyframes here. So what you don't want to click on the position, you want to click on all of these. And because it was already out in the beginning, I'm gonna make my hands go exactly how it was in the original. So I'm gonna copy all the old keyframes and bring it out again. So it goes down and then jumps up in the air. So it starts off like pretty normal, and then it goes into a crouch position, and then once it hits the crouch position, it jumps up in the air. And the hands, if you copy all the frames, so you can actually just select them all, click Control C, move over a bit and paste them, Control V. So what that does is it'll copy all the frames, and you will do the same motion without having to bring it back to original. Because when you mess around with puppet warp too much, the picture gets deformed and it gets very hard to reset it back to normal. So it's good to just use your old keyframes and kind of copy them and put them into place. Once you've done the puppet warp and everything is how you like it, you want to add final adjustments, you want to add sound effects, you want to add twitch effects, you want to basically make this Cinemagraph look as realistic as possible, and you do that through the final adjustments. In this specific tutorial, I'm not gonna go step by step and show you all those specific adjustments because I've already done the breakdown, and you guys can go back and see how I did that. So you want to go online, find sound effects, find cool effects that you want to add over top, find a blast wave. These are all, you can find very nice ones for free on YouTube, or you can buy memberships to websites such as Envato Elements, Footage Crate. There's all these different websites that give you very cool stock footage that's 4K, high quality, and even sound effects. So if you guys are into this stuff full time, you guys want to make a living out of this, it's useful to buy a membership and to use these services. And that concludes our tutorial for today. I hope you guys gained something and learned something from this tutorial. If you guys did and you guys like my videos, feel free to hit the subscribe button, like the video, comment what you guys think. If you guys didn't like the video, feel free to dislike, as I'm open to criticism and I want to improve my videos for all my viewers. With that being said, my name is Yaxo and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.